What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters and welcome to Love to Metal. I'm going to do another What's Spinning. I'm going to do basically a part 2 on the Power Trio video I started the other day. It was a response video to Vinyl Potatoes contest, but man, I could only show 3. I ended up showing 4, but I could only show 3 Power Trio bands, and there's just so many great Power Trio bands that I wanted to share. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do a part 2. I'm going to show a bunch more. So I'm going to do, I think, 15 Power Trio bands. I'm going to do them quickly because I don't want this to be an hour-long video. Got a couple of bonus ones over here. This is Canadian band Santers. This is a Canadian hard rock AOR band. And this is Hydra. It's a mid to early 70s southern rock band. Both of them Power Trios. Aren't going to be on the list, so there'll be honorable mentions. So let's get right into this. You have to excuse my voice. I'm losing it a little bit today, but this very first one, another Canadian band. This is one that I keep framed on my wall. It's Exciter, Violence and Force. Now, Exciter are one of the early heavy metal bands that were kind of like a precursor to thrash metal. Formed in I think it was around 1980. Violence and Force was their second album from 1984. Just pure speed, pure aggression. The hyper vocals from drummer Dan Bueller. This is just a fantastic record. Can't show you the back because there is no back because it's in a frame, but my copy happens to be signed by guitarist John Rickey. But this was very close to making my my top 4 list that I showed the other day. Just a great record from a great band, Exciter. This is an Irish band formed in 1978, Mama's Boys. This is their first label record, I believe. They had another record that came out before this that was kind of an independent album. It's called like the official bootleg or something like that. But this is their first, real record. Plug it in. Just fantastic. This band was made up of 3 brothers, the McManus brothers, and I'm gonna forget their names. They're on the back, but basically you've got Pat, who is known here as the Professor. You've got John and Tommy, and those 3 brothers made up the band Mama's Boys. Now the Mama's Boys were kind of, like I said, they were from Ireland, but they kind of had that new wave of British heavy metal sound to them, and they were part of that movement, even though they weren't directly from Britain. They kind of had that sound, and they were part of that whole movement, kind of like bands like Anvil were, Twisted Sister even were. They were part of that movement, but they weren't from that area, and they kind of have that sound, and that's what you get with Mama's Boys. Just great, straightforward heavy metal. The Professor actually plays guitar on the album, but he also does some violin fiddle stuff, which is very cool. It's one of the things that makes Mama's Boys different and special. So, Mama's Boys from Ireland. This next band is from Australia, one of my all-time favorite bands. This is another one that I really thought about putting in my top 4, and I'm not sure why I didn't, because they probably deserve to be there, but this is Mortification. This is their second album from 1992. This is Scrolls of the Megaloth on Nuclear Blast Records. Definitely their most popular, well-known record. This album is just pure, raw, guttural death metal, lots of thrash influences. Just a great record. They don't forsake melody completely, but I mean, this is old school death metal, this is old Death, old Sepultura, old Carcass, and all that kind of stuff all mixed and blended together. That's what you get with Mortification. Again, Power Trio, made up of, so we got Jason Sherlock on drums, you've got Michael Carlisle, who plays guitar, and Steve Rowe on bass. Of course, this band was formed from the ashes of a band called Light Force, and I just happened to grab the demo from Light Force. In 1990, they put out this demo. Light Force was a power metal band, and by 1990, their sound had changed, their lineup had changed. They were a 3-piece band, and they put out this album called Break the Curse, and this is that demo right here. Eventually, Break the Curse will be put out again on Nuclear Blast under the Mortification name called Mortification, Break the Curse, 1990. But anyhow, this album here is the one I wanted to show. Scrolls of the Megaloth, Mortification, Nuclear Blast Records, Australian Power Trio. And now we got a Swiss Power Trio. This is Corner. This is also their second album. It's having a hard time picking which Corner album I wanted to show. Punishment for Decadence is just fantastic. Technical, raw, thrash metal. Very few bands sound like these guys. I think they're unique. I think they're still unique today. A lot of bands try and copy their sound. Probably the band I think of that comes closest, more modern band, maybe Vector. But regardless, this is just fantastic speed metal. Ron Royce was the man behind the band. Tommy Barron on guitars, Marcus Marquis on drums, and of course Ron Royce and Tommy Barron pretty much became the the main guys stayed the main guys in the band. And these guys put out lots more music. I'm not sure if they're still doing things today or not. I'm pretty sure they're not. But this U.S. power trio thrash band is. This is At War from Virginia, formed in 1983, I believe. Formed by Paul Arnold on bass and vocals, and Sean Hessel and Dave Stone on drums. These guys are still together. They did break up for a while, but they got back together. They've released newer material. They're still out touring today. And I think the only thing that's changed is I think they have a new drummer who joined in 2014. It's a couple years ago. Can't remember the new drummer's name, but regardless. At War, again, raw, vicious thrash metal. Their sound I would say is like a mixture of probably like Slayer mixed with Motorhead. That's probably what you're going to get with their sound. War metal. That's what you get with At War. Order to Kill, their second album, 1980, what year does this come out? I can't remember what year this came out, sorry. I'll put it below. Sticking with the thrash scene, this is so let's say we had a Swiss band, we had an Australian band, we had a American band, here's a German band. This is Sodom with their first full-length album, Obsessed by Cruelty. This is raw guttural. I remember back in the day, people would actually call these guys death metal. Now, I wouldn't call them death metal today. This is definitely thrash, but it's very raw, very guttural. It kind of has that that venomish tone to the sound, where it's real heavy and just brutal and guttural. That's the word. Only thing I can think of is guttural. But anyhow, this is their full-length album. They were formed in like 1983, I believe. It was 81. They formed in 81. The first album didn't come out. The first full-length album didn't come out until 1986. And that's what you get right here. And of course, you get Angel Ripper, Tom Angel Ripper, and Witch Hunter on drums. And then you've got Destructor on guitars. You gotta love the fun names that they came up with back in the day. But yeah, Sodom, German, Teutonic thrash metal band. I could have also showed Destruction. I decided to go with Sodom in this one. And Obsessed by Cruelty, just because it's just so very different from what anybody else was doing. Maybe similar to what Creator and what those other Teutonic bands were doing, but I don't know. Sodom is Sodom, and I love them. So, getting away from the thrash metal thing. This is an American band, Manila Road, formed in the 70s. They didn't really started really putting out a lot of albums until the 80s. This is their second album from 1983. This is Crystal Logic. Most fans would agree that this is probably their most well-known, most respected album. Very melodic, straightforward heavy metal, but with a very unique sound. Nobody quite sound like him. You can't say, these guys sound like Judas Priest. These guys sound like Iron Maiden. No, those influences are in there, but they have their own unique sound. They kind of fit into this kind of atmospheric vibe that I always think of when I think of bands like Cirith Ungol and I don't know, Manila Road are just their own animal. Of course, you got three guys, Mark the Shark Shelton, and then you got Scott Park and Rick Thrasher Fisher, I think was his name, right? Of course, the name's on the back of this one. I think I said though, Mark Thrasher Fisher. And Mark the Shark Shelton is the only guy. These guys are still together, still putting out music, but he's the only member that's still around. The three-piece band remained all the way through 1990, put out tons of great music. But like I said, if you've never heard of Manila Road, this is the album I would suggest checking out first. This is a high roller reissue, well worth picking up. It's still around, still priced decently, and it sounds great. Dropping back to the 60s, American hard rock band Blue Cheer. Many people call these guys a precursor to heavy metal, proto-metal, whatever you want to call it. I totally would agree. But it wasn't about heaviness so much with them as it was about being loud. It was just loud. Very well known for their cover of Summertime Blues. That was just, I don't know, out of this world. It's just hard to explain. But Lee Steffens was a guitar player. Paul Whaley and Dick Peterson on bass. Paul Whaley being on drums. This is an original pressing. I actually found this in a bin many years ago when I was looking for this record. And there was a repressing right next to it that was cheaper than this original pressing. This original pressing has a little bit of a spine split at the top. It's got a little bit of marker on the back. But there's just something special about this original pressing that I really liked. Has that vintage, crusty look that I love about it. And for an album that's this old, this is actually in very good condition, especially the vinyl. So had to have it. Blue Cheer, proto metal from the USA. And I'll keep it on going on. This is probably a more obscure band. Not a whole lot of people know of these guys. 80s band. They only put out 2 full-length albums that I know of. This is their first album from Triton. Kind of slightly progressive, heavy metal from the 80s. A lot of people call them a Rush clone, mostly because of the vocals. It kind of has that high-pitched Geddy Lee kind of style, but they're not really a Rush clone. I'm sure they were influenced by Rush, but they're more straightforward 80s heavy metal than Rush ever were. Very good album. This is Celestial Messenger, and mixing up the two album names. And this one was from 1987, I believe. This is one that everybody was shocked it didn't make my first list, and they're a great band. And I love this band. They're one of my favorites, but no, they didn't make my top 4. So this is ZZ Top, Tres Hombres. I'm still looking for the first couple of ZZ Top albums on vinyl. I have them on CD. Don't particularly care for the CDs because they're remixed and the drums are different. Got to find the vinyl one these days. But Tres Hombres is a classic album from the Texas-based little band from Texas, ZZ Top. Everyone knows who ZZ Top is. Don't have to go to much explanation with them. One of the most well-known and respected power trios. As is this band, another band from Canada, Rush. Now this is a band I really lamented not putting in my top 4 because I love this band. I love their first 4 albums. I guess it is their first 4 albums. I love all their albums, but the first 4 albums are just something special about those albums. You know, those early 70s, they were kind of they were progressive, they were heavy, metal, they were a little bit of everything. All culminating into this live album, which is why I picked this one as my pick for the album. It was hard to pick one Rush album, but I went with All the World the Stage. First of all, this has the definitive version of By Tor and the Snow Dog with that growling bass tone from Geddy Lee and from his Rickenbacker bass. I just love that song on this live record. Rush were formed actually in 1968, and they actually had several different members, but of course the 3 members that are most known, the ones that stick around for every album except for the first one, was Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and Neil Peart. And of course the original drummer who played on the first album, who passed away, John Rudsey, right? But other than that, you know, it's those other 3 guys everybody knows about. Anyhow, Rush, All the World's a Stage. This is from 1970s, I don't remember, mid-70s. And last 2 we got going on here. This is UK first wave of British heavy metal band, Budgie. People tend to think of, you know, the first wave of British heavy metal, you tend to think of who? You know, you think of Deep Purple, you think of Black Sabbath, Rainbow, Led Zeppelin, UFO, those are the kind of bands to think of, but Budgie was right there as well. Hugely influential, especially to a band called Metallica, who basically helped make their music known in the United States by doing some covers of them and just spreading the word about that new wave of British heavy metal back in the day. This album is Bandolier. Again, I had a hard time picking them. They're all great albums. But I put a note back here so I wouldn't forget the name. Burke Shelley on bass and vocals and Tony Berg are the 2 main guys in the band. But of course, they've always been, for the most part, been a power trio. They did have an album where they added a vocalist and they were a 4-piece, but for the most part, Budgie were known as a power trio. Classic UK heavy metal band, Budgie, hard rock, whatever you want to call it. And my last one, this is one that's going to be obvious. Should have probably made my top 5 list as well because they are one of my top 5 favorite bands of all time. But this is Thin Lizzy. Now, Thin Lizzy are more known as the dual guitar band. They were known as a 4-piece. But their first 3 albums and a bunch of singles were all done as this 3-piece. With, because you got Phil Lynott on bass and vocals, Brian Downey on drums, and those 2 pretty much remained, you know, the core of Thin Lizzy throughout their career till his passing in '86. But you also had Eric Bell on guitar, and Eric Bell, of course, is the guy who actually came up with the name Thin Lizzy. He left the band after this record, this being their 3rd album. Decided to go with the 3rd one. I could have gone with any of the 3 albums. Very different sound from what Thin Lizzy were known for. This is not the heavy metal hard rock that Thin Lizzy were known for, with the dual leads. This is more, there's Irish folk mixed in here. This is, inspired by Cream and Jimi Hendrix and that kind of thing, which is which I love as well. So great stuff. But you get that Irish folk mixed in too with the Jimi Hendrix and Cream and the Irish folk all together, and you get something very different. But you do get a couple classic songs in here that Thin Lizzy would continue to play in the future. Biggest one being The Rocker, a song that was just catapulted into awesomeness on Live and Dangerous 1978. But you also get on here Slow Blues and Vagabonds of the Western World, Little Girl in Bloom. These are all classic Thin Lizzy songs. So there you go. Cranked through that one as quickly as I could. Sorry if I was speaking too quickly, but I wanted to show all those as quickly as I could. That is some more of my favorite power trios. Could have put a bunch more in. Cream comes to mind. Zebra is another one. You know, there's tons of you could include, but those are some of my favorites. So again, I appreciate all the comments from video 1. Hope you enjoyed video 2. Maybe you thought I should have included somebody. Let me know who it was that I missed out on, or maybe I said something that it was incorrect. I can always count on you guys to correct me. I definitely appreciate all your comments. Love that you guys spend time watching my videos and discussing music with me. That's why I do these things. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up if you liked it. God bless. Stay strong.